In the heart of Houston, it's fun, it's engaging, it's Chattin' with Chelsea. She's daytime's new bestie. Here's your host, Chelsea Edwards. Come back to me.
Hey, besties. Welcome to another episode of Chattin' with Chelsea. I'm your daytime bestie, Chelsea Edwards. And today, we are talking about self-love. Yes, we got a psychologist in who says that even if you make a few missteps, especially at the beginning of the year like we do, you gotta love yourself enough to keep on going. We're gonna talk about how to do that. And this other guest, she doesn't make any missteps. She is my Broadway bestie, Brittany Smith. She's been traveling across the nation, doing amazing shows. She's gonna talk all about her career and also inspire us to love ourselves enough to live our dreams. All right, we got a great show for you today. So speaking of self-love, I actually had a very rare child-free Saturday the other day. So I decided to give myself a little self-love. I went to Costco, took as much time as I wanted, and then I got a massage. Whew, it has been a minute. And I don't know what kind of pressure points this man was hitting, but for once, I did not fall asleep. That was big for me. That was big. And then also, at one point, I just got so relaxed and my mind just said, oh, I love me. I love me so much. I mean, and that just never happens for me where it just pops in my head like that. And it just felt like, you know what? I should say this more often. It needs to be a part of my affirmations. You know what? This person has some ideas.
Here's a reminder for you in 2025. Don't chase or run after anyone who doesn't want you. Don't beg anyone to stay. Know your worth. Save space for people who matter. Accept what cannot be changed. Leave what is not for you. Most importantly, love yourself.
Okay, all right. Manavia tells it like it is, doesn't she?
I love it.
I love that. That could be affirmations every morning.
Right, just listen to that every morning by yourself before you go out into the world. I love it.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Kashana
you.
Huddleston. Thank you so much for coming
You're
in.
welcome. Happy to be here.
You are all about the self-love.
I am.
But a lot of us, especially women, we lack in that area. And so tell us why it's so important.
Wow, I mean, it's the foundation for who you are as a person. It's about accepting who you are, first and foremost. Accept that part. Recognizing your value and your worth as a woman, right?
Okay.
And most importantly, allowing yourself to be kind to yourself, to be nice with yourself as you navigate all the spaces that you may take up, right?
How do you see prioritizing self-love as changing someone's life?
I mean, it can make a big difference in your mental health. It can make a big difference in your physical health and emotional health. Those things are the foundational aspects of who you are as a human being, right? And if you are creating a space where self-love is a priority, you can then sort of create positive connections in that way. So it's important.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe not allowing some of the nonsense, like the video was saying.
Right,
certain
like what
people-
she said.
Yeah, and maybe cutting some of that off.
Cut out the negativity, cut out the things that serve no purpose. Treat yourself well.
So a lot of us, and I've asked this, we've discussed this on the show before, we don't really understand where the line is when it comes from self-love to becoming selfish. Because a lot of people who we think love themselves very much,
Right.
they may come off as selfish, and a lot of us don't want to get into that. So how do we know?
I know. So I see it too as this fine line that you walk and try to balance between self-love and being selfish. I think sometimes it's important to be selfish, depending on what it is. It's about your time, it's about your energy, if it's draining you. Maybe it is important to be selfish in that way, right?
Okay, all right, write that down.
Right,
Maybe sometimes it's okay to be selfish. All right.
Sometimes, especially when it's taking more than what it is valuing and benefiting you, right? So it's okay to be selfish. But I think also selfish can be an act of self-love too.
Really?
Yeah, it can be a function of that. Like I mentioned before, the unnecessary commitments. You say no. Say no. You know, people, if you have set aside time to get that wonderful massage that you talked about,
Yes.
and people are like, no, come do this. They're trying to pull your time in a different direction. Maybe you do need to be selfish and say, like, no, I've set aside some quiet time. I've set aside some time where I can get a massage and have a space where I can sort of regenerate and feel better. I need to take that time. I'm not going to be able to do these other things that you're asking me to do.
Okay, so it may look
It may look selfish
on the outside.
right? But it could be a function of self-love too.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love
Yeah.
that. Okay. We got to get into more of these tips on self-love. Number one, book a massage.
Book a massage, right?
Yes.
Right. Carve out your quiet time.
We'll be
Focus on
right
yourself.
back.
That's
Yes.
okay.
After this.
Got the feeling, come back to me. I've got the feeling, come back.
We are back with Dr. Shaw. Now that we know what self-love is, we got to
Yes.
figure out how to exercise it.
Let's do it.
So one of the things you mentioned was practicing self-compassion.
Yes, practicing self-compassion, meaning being kind to yourself.
It's so hard
Which
sometimes.
it is very hard. So it's like treating yourself like you would treat a friend, right? So, you know, I've encouraged even some of my clients, you know, they're talking negatively about themselves or saying, you know, something that they didn't get right. I asked them, so if your friend came to you saying the exact same thing, what would you say to them, right? And so they're able to articulate this positive aspect to what's going on with them. And so I encourage them the same way that you would talk to a friend about what they're struggling with, talk to yourself
Yes.
in the same way, especially during tough times.
Okay, all right,
Right.
because I was really hard on myself.
Right.
The last time I was really hard on myself, it was just over the holidays. There was a lot going on,
Yeah.
and I didn't make time to go see my grandmother. So yeah, that was the last time I was hard on myself. How would you rephrase that?
Well, I'm sure Grandma knows how much you love her and care about her. And maybe you could just call her or FaceTime. Did you do any things like that?
After we caught up after.
And, that's
dinner.
fine. And I bet she thought that was just as good, and that was okay.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
You can find other ways to be in connection, even though it may not happen the day of. Call Grandma the next day.
Okay.
You know, find another, like, hey, Grandma, we didn't celebrate today, but I can come on this day.
Okay.
You know, be kind to yourself and flexible. Right?
Flexibility.
It doesn't have to be on Christmas.
Yes.
Right? It can be any of those other days. So replacing, you know, some of these negative self-talk into more supportive ways of encouraging yourself to be flexible and nice to yourself.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Oh, she's good. Make me cry. Okay. What's your next step for making sure we give ourselves that love?
Well, just understanding that you're going to make mistakes. It's a human experience. We all make mistakes and missteps. And not to get down on yourself and dwell on the fact that you are making mistakes as you go along this process of trying to love yourself, right? Because I think a lot of people get stuck in spaces where they're thinking about everything that they didn't get right.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on today and what they can control today and how to move forward.
Well, it's hard to balance that. I'm just rebutting
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, no, you're
But
fine.
it can be hard to balance that when you do have standards for yourself, or you, especially people starting off with New Year's goals and all of that.
Absolutely.
So when they do those missteps and then they're being hard on themselves again, you know, what's your advice for really making sure that we're moving forward instead of just staying stuck on those mistakes?
I think it's about the effort in the process, right? Acknowledging that, you know, I'm making these steps and it's not about perfection.
Okay.
I think that's a point that a lot of people get stuck in, is thinking that they're supposed to be perfect and you don't. And celebrating the small steps that you are taking. I am a big advocate of celebrating everything, celebrating the small things.
Okay.
Like, okay, if you're on some journey to get quality sleep, okay, well, tonight I was able to go to bed at 10:30, 11 o'clock. My goal is to go to bed at 9:30, but I was able to get in bed by 10:30. So maybe I'm going to give me a little bit of Starbucks this morning.
I like that. All right, so celebrate those small steps
Yes.
as well. All right, what else should we be doing?
To the same vein of, you know, what I spoke about in terms of like the sleep example, but just taking care of yourself, you know, taking care of yourself physically, making sure that you're getting some regular exercise, making sure that you're eating some nutritious, healthy foods, making sure that you are prioritizing sleep, things like that. And if you continue to struggle with, you know, how you see yourself and how you're engaged in the world, go get help. There are tons of therapists in this big old city, online and in person,
Yes.
that can help facilitate that process and helping you find better ways to engage in being better, having better mental health. Yeah.
So part of that self-love is taking care of the
Yes.
body, the mind.
Yes.
All of
yes,
that.
the sleep, exactly.
For those of us who know someone who may struggle with that self-care or that self-love, how do you encourage them to take those steps, especially if it's, like maybe you should be talking to a therapist?
Acknowledge what you're seeing. If it's a friend, like I realize that, you used to work out and you no longer seem to enjoy that or do it. You seem not to be sleeping. You've talked about how tired you are all the time. Ask them what's going on, and like if they needed any type of support from you, hey, I can help you find someone if you needed it, or you may already know someone. Let me refer you to this person. I think that this person could be helpful for you.
Now, I'm sure you've run across people who say, no, I don't need the help.
Right.
How do you address that?
Right. Okay, tell me why you don't think you need the help.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Yeah, tell me why you don't think you need the help, right? You talked about you've struggled with A, B, C, and D, right? So what's your plan to get better on your own if you don't think you need the help? What kind of support can I offer you?
Ooh.
How can I be of service?
Okay.
So it's
all right.
different type of ways you can sort of switch and transition that conversation to if you're just helping them as a friend or a person that's in their life, or encouraging them to seek help otherwise.
Got it. All right. For ourselves, what other mindset shifts do we need to make to prioritize self-love? Because it could easily get put on the back burner in the midst of everything that we have going on.
I mean, it has to be a priority, like anything else in your life. As you think about going to work, if you're thinking about showing up as a parent or as a friend or as a sibling, it needs to be a priority and something that you work at every single day. And it can be, again, with those small steps. I'm getting sleep tonight. I'm going to eat a healthy breakfast this morning. I'm going to go get that massage as you talked about earlier. So just being mindful of the importance of you taking care of you and how that needs to look.
Okay, thank you for taking care of us. Coming up next, besties, we got my Broadway bestie in to help us pursue our dreams. That is a form of self-care, so you keep it right here. We'll be back. Donna Summer to dancing at the White House. Brittany Smith has traveled across the country, hitting almost all 50 states, performing Broadway hits and much more. Welcome. You have an official name now, my Broadway bestie.
Broadway bestie. I love that. Let's just keep it there.
Let's keep it there. Okay, so guys, Brittany, actually, I went to high school with her.
Yes.
We graduated class of 02, and so we reconnected recently. I'm so glad I caught up with you because you are a busy lady.
You are a busy lady. And let me just say, so happy and proud of you and all the things that the show is doing. This is such a beautiful full circle moment.
Yeah, same, all the things. So let's get into your whole career because it's been more than 12 years.
Yeah, and that's just on tour.
Yeah,
specifically.
Wow. So how did you get into performing?
Well, of course, it was just something that I loved to do. I was the dramatic child growing up, and so my parents, do what every parent does, right? Put their kids in the things that they see them excelling in and dabbling in and finding interest in. So I trained in voice and in dance and acting growing up, but I think the major mark that made me have the bug, the bug bit me. I saw the original movie Sparkle.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
I was 9 years old. I grew up in a musical family. My mother sang and played instruments and all the things, and showed me the movie Sparkle when I was 9 years old, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. See, a lot of us got bit with that bug after we saw Sparkle, but we didn't necessarily have those skills like you. Now, you have always been able to sing, as far as I can remember. You actually signed with Matthew Knowles and everything.
Yeah, that was a really awesome moment in my life. I was dancing for the Houston Rockets at the time, so I was a young dancer then, and I got into a girl group with two amazing women. I'm still very, very close to them now. They are my sisters for life. And we would, gosh, I'm telling my business, we would sneak in and out of the facility where Matthew's record label was housed.
Oh.
And we would, and not, not necessarily sneak. We knew someone there, and we would rehearse and things like that. Anyway, we ended up getting on a showcase that he would host every year, and he signed us, gosh, very soon after that. He had wanted to have a meeting with us the next day. So a lot of my my performance quality, a lot of my songwriting ability, a lot of my determination and kind of will and things like that in the industry was really groomed and honed while being signed to Matthew Knowles.
Yes. Let's talk about some of your most memorable productions. And do you have a favorite?
Oh my goodness, and it's so hard to choose from because I've done so many really cool things. I'm gonna have to give that one to Donna Summer. Just being able to travel the country playing this iconic, legendary singer, a woman, and really being able to delve into her life story outside of the music that a lot of people that grew up or had a vocabulary of the disco era knew and loved was just amazing. It was so much fun, and I think the biggest takeaway from that, I got this huge co-sign. Her family came out to see the show when we were in Nashville on tour, and her daughter, Mimi, looked at me after and she said, "Thank you for studying my mother." And that was like the biggest, the biggest co-sign, and I was like, I'm gonna be a star now.
It's official.
Yeah, so playing Donna Summer was incredibly rewarding.
I love that. Now, with all those hits, I'm sure there were some challenges, staying in the industry, like musicals and performing.
Let's be real, this industry is beautiful and awesome and amazing, but it can be fickle just because of the nature of shows, right? And my career is audition based. I have to walk in rooms and everything is contingent upon if the people behind the table like me, you know what I mean? If they believe that whatever it is that I'm doing is right for this particular role. And not necessarily do they like me as a human. You can go in and, I tell especially younger creatives all the time, you can go into these audition rooms and be amazing, wonderful, beautiful, talented, well prepared, all the things, and still not book a particular role for the smallest of things that has nothing to do with you. It could have to do with height. It could have to do with any little thing that is not necessarily intimate to your talent, your self-worth. And so those challenges really, really come in the industry, and it is inevitable. We've all faced it. And so you really have to find those ways to speak to yourself and to be able to give yourself grace, give yourself that self-love. And like I like to say, not be married to the auditions. Go in there, do your thing, and be able to leave and move on to the next thing going, if it is meant for me, it will happen. And beyond the deep stuff, sometimes you have to just hype yourself up like, I know I'm good. I know I'm great. I know I'm worthy. Sometimes it's something as small as affirmations to where you can go, I'm great, I'm worthy, and I'm gonna leave it right there. What's meant for me is for me, and sometimes I have to, in my mind, play over my own resume. You've done X, Y, Z, so you know that you're marketable, you know that you're worthy, you know that you're built for this. Go get something to eat.
I love always picks the mood up. Right? Yes. I love that you teach that to your mentees and that you're helping the next generation become beautiful performers like yourself. Now, you also show them how you warm up before a performance and get ready. So you have some tips for me too. I might be using these before the show.
This is actually great for anybody that speaks a lot, that sings a lot, that even dancers and things like that. So one of my tips and tricks for anyone watching right now is cardio. So cardio before auditioning, cardio before show, and not necessarily heavy cardio. You never want to tire yourself out, but sometimes just a little movement not only warms up all of your muscles, but it actually does open that voice box, open those vocal cords up more. Sometimes you can just start with a basic hum. And so you gonna do it with me?
Okay, yes ma'am.
Put your hands on your diaphragm, which is kind of that muscle just below your rib cage, right? And so when we breathe, a lot of times people aspiring to sing, or even sometimes singers, especially with a tired voice, we kind of want to breathe this way, but really you should be breathing this way, right? You should be expanding that rib cage and then coming in this way so that you're not constricting your breathing. So we're going to take a deep breath, pushing our stomach out, feeling that, and then we're just going to hum our way on in, right? Like we are deflating a balloon. So something like Yes. And you can do that several times, several pitches. Make sure you're taking like a really deep breath. Another one that I love is called a lip trill. It's like my favorite. Just a right?
Wait, let me.
Yeah, and it's a lot more difficult than it looks, right?
Okay.
Yes, so just try a basic
Gotta make sure you're moisturized, right?
Moisturize the situation.
Okay.
Exactly. And so that's how it starts, right? You, the idea is to not only loosen up that kind of those vocal cords or whatever, but also have like a nice stream of air so that you can access those notes like you want to. And so, yes. And when you get really good, you can kind of, and you can kind of warm up your upper register. Yeah, try it. You want to go as low as you can, high as you can. Do that several times. Another of my favorite.
Oh, wait, let me get my handy
I think
straw.
you got your handy straw.
I got my handy straw, okay.
Sometimes I do this in water because I'm a kid. But you can just do this without water. And again, this is more so streamlining your breath control, making sure that you're having a nice open stream of air, because that is really important. And you're just going to blow through it.
Okay.
And the idea is to do that as long as you can. That helps you to be able to hold notes a little bit longer, kind of find placement. You don't want it to be in your throat. You kind of want to be able to kind of play with placement maybe through your nose, but you never want to be blowing or having your throat doing a lot of the work. Just the diaphragm, kind of your mix right there, kind of that interesting spot.
Okay.
And, and you can even do it on a pitch.
Okay.
Or up a scale.
Oh, that was good. All right, I'm going to have a special spot for my straw back here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the tips and the fun. So great seeing you again.
Yes.
You guys, we'll be right back after this commercial break. Thank you for watching this self-love episode of Chatting with Chelsea. I want to thank my guests, Brittany Smith and Dr. Sean. You can keep up with us on Chelsea Show Fox on social media. Until then, we'll see you next time, besties.